Imagine standing in the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Giza, knowing that just centuries ago, a Muslim woman held absolute power over this ancient land. Her name was Shajar al-Durr, and she didn't just wear a crown, she commanded armies, crushed crusaders, and became the first female sultan in Islamic history. But history buried her story, along with countless others who defied every expectation of their time. What if I told you that while Europe was still emerging from the Dark Ages, Muslim women were ruling vast empires, leading cavalry charges, and making decisions that shaped the destiny of millions? These weren't mythical figures or Hollywood fantasies. These were real women who lived by Islamic principles while wielding power that would make modern leaders envious. The year was 1249. The Seventh Crusade had reached the shores of Egypt, and Sultan al-Salih Ayyub lay dying in his palace. But instead of panic, there was a woman who understood that weakness shown at the wrong moment could mean the fall of an empire. Shajar al-Durr, whose name means Tree of Pearls, made a decision that would echo through history. She concealed her husband's death, continued issuing orders in his name, and personally coordinated the defense against Louis IX of France. When the dust settled, the mighty King of France was captured, and Egypt remained unconquered. But this was just the beginning. In 1250, Shajar al-Durr was officially proclaimed Sultan, the first woman in Islamic history to hold this title. She ruled for 80 days that changed everything. She issued coins with her name, received foreign ambassadors, and governed according to Islamic law. The scholars of Al-Azhar supported her rule, recognizing that in times of necessity, exceptional leadership transcends conventional boundaries. Her reign proved that Islamic governance could accommodate extraordinary circumstances while maintaining religious integrity. Move forward 13 years to the bustling streets of Delhi, where another woman was about to shatter every assumption about female leadership in Islam. Razia Sultana didn't inherit power. She earned it through competence that even her critics couldn't deny. When Sultan Iltutmish needed to choose his successor, he looked past his sons and selected his daughter, declaring her the most capable of his children. In 1236, Razia ascended the throne of the Delhi Sultanate, ruling over territories that stretched across northern India. But she didn't rule from behind palace walls. Razia rode into battle on elephant back, wearing the traditional dress of a sultan, leading her armies personally. She established schools, promoted trade, and created policies that brought prosperity to her diverse subjects, Hindu and Muslim alike. Her administrative skills were legendary. She personally reviewed judicial decisions and ensured that Islamic principles of justice were applied fairly to all citizens. For 4 years, she proved that a woman could not only rule an Islamic kingdom, but excel at it. Now travel to 1611 to the opulent courts of the Mughal Empire, where love and politics were about to create the most powerful woman in Islamic India. Nur Jahan, Light of the World, began as Mehr-un-Nisa, a Persian widow with nothing but intelligence and dignity. When Emperor Jahangir fell in love with her wit and wisdom, he had no idea he was marrying the future de facto ruler of his empire. Nur Jahan didn't seize power. It was given to her by an emperor who recognized her superior judgment. She became the power behind the throne, and eventually the power on the throne itself. Nur Jahan issued imperial orders, her name appeared on official coins, and foreign ambassadors sought her approval above the emperor's. She personally led military campaigns, most famously rescuing her husband when he was captured by rebels in Kashmir. But her greatest achievement was proving that Islamic civilization could flourish under female guidance. Under her influence, art blossomed, trade expanded, and the empire reached new heights of cultural sophistication. Now you might wonder, how did these women justify their rule in Islamic societies? The answer lies in understanding that Islam, from its very beginning, recognized the exceptional capabilities of women. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was supported by Khadija, a successful businesswoman who was his employer before she became his wife. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, became one of the most respected scholars of Islamic law, consulted by caliphs and common people alike. The Quran itself declares, "And whoever does righteous deeds, whether male or female, while being a believer, those will enter paradise, and they will not be wronged even as much as the speck on a date seed." Islamic history is filled with women who led, taught, fought, and governed because the religion itself never placed artificial limits on human potential. These queen sultans understood that their authority came not from defying Islamic principles, but from fulfilling the Quranic mandate to establish justice on earth. But let's not romanticize their stories. Each of these women paid a tremendous price for their extraordinary lives. Shajar al-Durr was eventually murdered by the concubines of her successor's wife, beaten to death with wooden clogs in a palace bathroom. Razia Sultana died in battle, abandoned by nobles who preferred a weak male ruler to a strong female one. Even Nur Jahan, the most successful of the three, watched helplessly as her stepson, Shah Jahan, sidelined her from power. Their stories remind us that breaking barriers often means becoming a target for those who benefit from the status quo. Yet none of them seem to have regretted their choices. They lived fully, ruled justly, and left legacies that inspire us centuries later. They understood that true leadership requires sacrifice, and they were willing to pay the price. Pause for a moment and think. What barriers in your own life are you afraid to challenge? What would you attempt if you had their courage? These women's stories carry urgent lessons for Muslims today, especially as our community grapples with questions about women's roles in Islamic society. They prove that Islam has always had space for exceptional women to serve the Ummah in extraordinary ways. They show us that competence, not gender, should determine leadership in times of need. Most importantly, they demonstrate that faithful Muslims can adapt to circumstances while remaining true to core principles. In our modern world, where Muslim women are doctors, engineers, teachers, and leaders, these historical figures provide inspiration and precedent. They remind us that the question isn't whether women can lead in Islamic societies, it's whether we are ready to recognize and support the leaders Allah has already placed among us. If you're a young Muslim woman watching this, know that these queens didn't succeed despite their faith. They succeeded because of it. They found strength in their prayers, wisdom in the Quran, and courage in the examples of the righteous women who came before them. Here's what's truly tragic. Most Muslims today have never heard these names. We know about Salahuddin and Harun al-Rashid, but Shajar al-Durr and Razia Sultana remain footnotes in history books. This erasure isn't accidental. Throughout history, those who felt threatened by powerful women have tried to minimize their achievements. But truth has a way of surviving. Their coins still exist in museums. Their architectural projects still stand. Their legal precedents still influence Islamic jurisprudence. Every time a Muslim woman achieves something extraordinary today, she's walking a path these queens carved centuries ago. They dreamed of a world where a woman's capabilities would matter more than society's expectations. That dream isn't fully realized yet, but every generation brings us closer to the justice they envisioned. If you found this story inspiring, help us spread these hidden histories by subscribing to the Islamic Journey and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it.